For me personally, I went to jail when I was 20.
Well,
I faced 15 years. I had 3 felonies. I faced 15 years in prison. I had to stand in front of a judge and hear a judge say that you're charged with this, this, and this. Each carries a maximum sentence of 5 years for a total of 15 years. How do you plead? Like, that's a big turning point moment, right? Like, I realized my entire life could have gotten taken away. Also sharing stories of like Jeremy Larson, who joined our group a few years ago, he was at like 8 or 9 million when he joined, went to 30 million to 100 to 200 plus million.
wow.
Or Megan Niles, who went from doing 6 houses to having 2 kids and now doing 36 houses,
Wow.
2 years later. So it's like, when we can share those stories, whether it's, somebody at Megan's level just going from 6 to 36, or Jeremy going from 9 million to 200 plus million, like sharing those stories, that's attractive, because that people want to see that there's a path. And the better job we can do of showing them that there's a path, and then what that path is, that's the most attractive thing.
Success leaves clues. One of my mentors told me that, and one of the best ways to become successful is to model what has worked for other people. And today, I want you to grab your popcorn, sit back and relax, and don't miss a minute of this interview with Kyle Whissel, who is one of the top real estate agents in the entire country and has one of the largest organizations within eXp Realty. You're gonna hear how he overcame adversity. You're gonna hear how he built his real estate team and how he built that organization to provide amazing passive and ancillary income for himself and his family. So let's rock and roll. As far as your team, how much real estate did your team sell last year?
So last year we did 418 million in volume, 650 units. This year, as of March 15th, we're already at 220 units closed and pending. So we're on track. If we can keep this pace in that 900 to 1,000 range, maybe break that mythical 1,000 number that's never been broke here in California.
Wow, that's awesome, Kyle. Well, congratulations on all that success. I'm curious, do you remember your first transaction?
Yeah, my first transaction. So I started in commercial. I worked with my dad at that time, and he was out of town. I had a buyer who found this apartment building that he wanted. It was an 8-unit building. And I drove him by the property. Apartments, you don't typically go inside, so you just walk it. So we walked the property. We wrote the offer. The agent accepted the offer. And he was like, do you want to go ahead and open up escrow? And I was like, what the fuck is escrow? How do I open escrow? I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I had to call him like, hey, what is this escrow thing this guy's talking about? Like, and this was an 8-unit apartment building. Like, think about an 8-unit apartment building today in San Diego is like probably a $3 or $4 million deal.
Right.
So, just think about that at that time, that level of deal. And I didn't even know what escrow was. Like, I had no clue. But I got the offer accepted. And that was literally like one of my first deals I ever did.
It's awesome, man. And that first year, I talked to a lot of new agents, and they're always curious. How much money did you make your first year in real estate?
So I did commercial for a few years. I would say when I transitioned to residential, I did 24 units my first year. What the dollars was, dude, I was that guy that back then I had no idea how much money I made. I didn't track or measure income. Like, I didn't know how much money I made that year until I sat down with my CPA on like April 14th, because of course I waited till like the day before taxes were due. Like, around April 14th was when I figured out how much money I made the year prior. Like, I was that bad when it came to finances when I got rolling. So I remember my unit count, because that's what we do, right? We're like egomaniacs and we want to talk about how many homes we sold. Like, I'm guilty as anybody. So I know it was 24 units my first year in residential. I don't remember what the dollars were behind it.
But I mean, that's a lot of units, and you're in a high dollar market. So, I'm assuming you did really well. What would you attribute that success to? There's not a lot of agents I talk to that do 24 units their first year.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I've been a hustler my whole life. Like, it's literally my DNA. So my first job I ever got, that was, I guess I'll share my first like non-payroll job and then my first payroll job. So my first non-payroll job was the hustle where I would go, my mom would drop me off at the donut shop every morning. I literally had a donut and a soda for breakfast like every day. Like, the fact I still have teeth is like a miracle. But she dropped me off at the donut shop, and on my walk to school, there was a grocery store. And I would stop at the grocery store, and at that time I could buy candy bars 2 for $1. And so I would buy candy bars 2 for $1, and then I would get to school and I'd sell each candy bar for $1. Literally 100% markup. And like, I'd only make like 10 or $15 a day, but that was in middle school. Like 10 or 15 bucks a day. Like, you're the big baller after school. Like, you're buying lunch and you're like a kingpin. You're buying a pack of baseball cards. Like, I was like the cool guy because I had $15 every single day. And I was doing that when I was in, seventh grade. So I don't remember what age that is anymore. That's probably what, like 10.
Yeah,
I
some
was
no, wait,
13 in ninth grade.
like
So seventh
12,
grade should have
12.
been 11. Yeah, 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I was hustling candy bars. Then I got hired by a pizza company to put flyers on people's doors. And I would meet up with all my friends after class. I would give them all the flyers.
Ha.
The pizza company would pay me 10 cents for every flyer that got hung. I would pay my friends 5 cents for every flyer that got hung. And I would hang out and play, Nintendo at that time. And I just play video games. And my friends would go deliver all the flyers, and I'd be making 100% margin, right? Like, I'd make 50% of every dollar that came in. So it's like, that's how I've always been, even from when I was, in middle school. And in high school, like, I was always just hustling. So it's just part of my DNA. It's all I know how to do. And whether it was like my grades in school or, the jobs that I worked in a movie theater was like my last job before real estate. And even there, they'd run contests of like who could scoop the most popcorn. Like, I had to win that. Every sport I ever played, like, I had to win. Like, I would obsess over all that stuff. So I think a lot of it is just my DNA to like, whatever I'm going to do, I'm just going to do it all in. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it.
Man, I love it. And Kyle, I'm noticing a trend with the 100% markup, so that's a good margin.
Right? 100% markup or 50-50 split, whatever way you look at it, right?
That's a great margin. That's awesome. So Kyle, in terms of real estate agents, obviously you've been in production, you've coached and trained and recruited tons of agents. Really pivotal question for me. I'm always looking for the kind of the secret sauce. What do you think separates an average realtor from someone who is making at the top 1%, let's say high six figures, seven figure agent?
Yeah, I would say there's a character trait, and then there's something that I see in them. So the character trait is I find that people who've been through some shit in their life tend to be the ones that excel. For me personally, I went to jail when I was 20. Wow. I faced 15 years. I had 3 felonies. I faced 15 years in prison. I had to stand in front of a judge and hear a judge say that you're charged with this, this, and this. Each carries a maximum sentence of 5 years for a total of 15 years. How do you plead? Like, that's a big turning point moment, right? Like, I realized my entire life could have gotten taken away at that point.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new here, I'm Danny, and my mission is to help you build an amazing real estate business that funds your dream life using my over 20 years of experience in the real estate business as a broker and team leader and coach. So if you're getting value from this video, I want to ask you for a quick favor. Hit that like button down below so YouTube sends this video out to the YouTube universe, and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Now back to the video.
So I look for people who've had shit like that happen, people who've been through divorce, through foreclosure, through bankruptcy, people who've been in the military, people, also people who've played high level sports tend to do really well, like that are very coachable. I found that those people tend to be the best. The people who are coming up who've never really had to work their whole life, have never really been through anything. They just don't get it. And sometimes it takes them a little time. Like, I actually have some agents who, when they first come in, they just don't get it. They don't understand how hard they have to work. And then we have very strict standards on our team that you have to pen 2 deals within the first 6 months. And if not, then we'll cut you. Or if we think you maybe have a chance, we'll put you on probation. And I've seen people go from probation to being in my top 5 agents, and I have over 100 of them. And so they've never had their back against the wall before. Getting put on probation from our team is one of, if not the first times they've ever had their back truly against the wall before. And I've seen people respond from that, from not being able to do 2 deals in their first 6 months to the next year selling 20 plus homes, which here that's like $15-20 million. So people that know how to respond when they face that adversity, I think, is the number one trait that I see in everybody who's extremely successful.
Oh man, I love that. I think that's great. Yeah, I think the sports thing definitely resonates. I've seen that a lot, especially myself since I played sports. Yeah. But yeah,
sports, military especially. Military is kind of both, right? Like, they literally had their back against the wall. Some of these people, life and death back against the wall. Plus, they've understood what it's like to take commands and execute on those commands too. So there's everybody, like I used to do a lot of coaching with tons of different coaches. I would go to tons of different events all the
Yeah.
time. And I would come back and then I'd have like 100 new ideas and my business was like all over the place. I've actually gotten away from all of that. I was at like 2-3 events a month. Like now
Yeah.
I host an event maybe every 2 or 3 months and that's it. Because what I've done is I've just gotten back to, like, in football terms, like it's all about just blocking and tackling. Like
Right.
you don't see the Chiefs or the Patriots run like a million trick plays. Like it's just blocking and tackling. Like that's all it takes to win the championships. And that's all it takes in real estate is just blocking and tackling. It's just the basic things. We don't need shiny new objects. We don't need a new app, a new widget, a new lead source. We don't need all this new stuff. We just need to block and tackle, which in this industry is just having conversations and building relationships.
I love that, Kyle. That's such a great point. And, kind of a great segue into the next question I was actually going to ask you, which is, if you were a new agent, let's say, or someone that joined your team, what would be that kind of best way right now for you to get clients fast?
Yeah. So here's what I would encourage everybody who's watching this or listening to this to do. So I don't know which app you go to on an Android, but if you go on an iPhone and you go to the contacts app and you just scroll all the way to the bottom, like I just want you guys to go to the very, very bottom, and it's going to have a number down there of how many contacts you have in your phone. For me, it's 1,000 something people. All right. So I want you to think about that. The second thing I want you to think about is how many social media posts have you made in the last 7 days? So keep those two numbers in mind. How many contacts are in your phone? How many social media posts have you made in the last 7 days? And then I'm going to share a story with you that really, really hits home. There's a book, it's called Acres of Diamonds. And the story, the way that this story works is there's this guy, he lives on all this land, this ranch, and he sees these stories of people all around the world that are mining diamonds and getting like ridiculously wealthy. And this guy's like, man, this ranch life is not for me. I want to go mine diamonds. I want to be rich like all these people. So the guy sells the ranch and takes the money from that and starts traveling all around the world trying to find diamonds. And he goes here and he comes up empty, goes there, he goes here, he goes there. He goes all over the world trying to find these diamonds, never ends up finding any of these diamonds, gets distraught, ends up committing suicide, jumps in a tidal wave and dies. Meanwhile, the person who bought the ranch, one day he's just walking around the ranch, there's a little stream, and the guy picks up a rock and he's like, oh, this is like a cool shiny rock, takes it home, puts it up on the fireplace mantle. Another time somebody's over at his house and looks up at the rock, the shiny rock on the mantle, and says like, hey, what's this? And the guy's like, oh, it's just this shiny rock I found down by the stream. The guy picks it up. It's like, this isn't a rock. This is a diamond. And lo and behold, there were acres and acres of diamonds on this ranch, on the same ranch that this guy sold to go chase diamonds all around the world. And so I want to come back to the initial question is, how many contacts do you have and how many social media posts are you putting up? Because the reality is the contacts you have in your phone, those are your acres of diamonds. And going and mining diamonds all around the world is all these damn social media posts that everybody's so obsessed with. We need to focus on the people that we already know, that we already have a relationship with. Enough of a relationship that they at least give us a phone number and email address. Otherwise, they couldn't be a contact in our phone. Let's focus on those people first before we worry about being the next, YouTuber or the next TikTok influencer. Like, there's so much pressure to do that stuff right now. And there's not nearly enough pressure to work the existing relationships that we already have. For every one agent you can show me that's wildly successful with social media and video, I will show you 1,000 that are wildly successful because of the relationships they've created within their existing sphere of influence. And so that's where I believe everybody should start, is you've got to have that foundation built first with your sphere before. Now, can you ultimately add a YouTube channel and be a TikTok influencer? Hell yeah. But not until you have a solid foundation, and that foundation is your existing sphere of influence first.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. If you've ever wondered where your next real estate client or commission check is coming from, or you're trying to scale your business to 6 or 7 figures, I want to invite you to book a free business strategy call by using the link down below. We'll hop on the phone, we'll do a deep dive into your business, we'll see what's working, we'll see what isn't. By the way, I have absolutely nothing to sell you. It's all free, and we'll see if potentially partnering with my team or my real real estate group can be a benefit to you. But either way, I guarantee that you'll leave the call with a ton of value and a plan of action that you can execute right away to grow your business. Book that call and I'll talk to you then. Now back to the in terms of clients, funny question, but I'm curious, what have been some of the weirdest ways that you've gotten clients?
The weirdest one I probably ever had is I had my car broken into. I never park in my driveway. I just happened to park in my driveway that night. I left the door unlocked. I woke up in the morning, went to a listing appointment, and went to grab my laptop bag, and it wasn't there. And I was like, oh shit, where's my laptop bag? Call home. I'm like, hey, is my laptop bag there? What's going on? Not there. And then I look at the video and I realize somebody had came and swiped my bag out of my car.
Mm-hmm.
Sucks. They got my laptop bag. They got my, what was it? I had a iPad in there. I had a laptop in there, credit cards, all kinds of stuff. So I file the police report, and lo and behold, the people who stole my stuff, they used my credit card. And we were able to get them identified with the store where they used the credit card. And the cops were like, oh, we know who these people are. And so they ended up getting all of my stuff back. And I go in to reclaim my property. And the detective is, he's like, hey, here's your stuff, sign all this. And then he's like, hey, you do that Everything East County show, right? Which is a show we do where we feature local restaurants. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And so we start building a relationship. Within a week, I have his house listed, and I help him buy a house, and it's $1.5 million worth of transactions. And it was the detective who helped recover all of my property that got stolen out of my car.
No way. That's a great story. I love that.
Yeah,
but it does go back to, kind of what you talk about. And I've heard you say it on your podcast, but just kind of talking to everyone and networking and build, like you said, building relationships everywhere you are.
Exactly. It's all about relationships. Like, the person who wins is not the person who has the most views on their video. It's the person who has the most relationships.
I love that, man. That's awesome. Well, on the real estate agent side, I would be remiss, I guess, if I didn't ask about it, given the current climate. But, we've had this commission lawsuit settlement situation with kind of a change in how we'll do business. And I don't want to spend too much time on it because everyone's talking about it. But what do you think ultimately will be the biggest impact of this?
Yeah, I do legitimately believe you're going to see a lot of people get out of the business. I think that you're going to see people who have been in this business a long time that see, this is the biggest shift that's ever happened for us. Yeah. We've been in this for a while now. Like, this is the biggest shift we've ever seen in how we do business. Definitely. I think a lot of these agents who've been around for a long time are just going to say, screw this. Like, I just don't have the energy for this. Like, they're just over it. They're like, I'm ready. I'm just going to go retire. Right. You also have the people, the younger ones coming up that have watched on TV and seen all this money, right? Like, there's so many of these shows that show the potential commission, which is like, dude, every agent I interview or talk to that joins my team that's under 30, like, they all mention one of the shows. Yeah. Whether it's a flipping show or a $1 million listing show, they all mention it, like, because they've seen these big numbers. But now they realize those numbers might not be as big, or they might be a lot harder to get those numbers. And so I think a lot of those people that are coming up thinking it's going to be big checks and easy money, I think they're out. And then the third person that I think is out is the weak agent, like just the glorified door opener agent. I think they're out. So I think you're going to see, I don't know what the percentage, I've heard people say there's going to be 10%. I've heard people say 50% of agents are going to leave the industry. Like, I don't know what that number is, but I do believe there'll be a significant amount of agents that will exit the business in the next 12 months. Yeah. And so as that happens, there's a flight to quality. Like, the quality agents are going to thrive through this. They're going to adapt, and they're going to come out of this thing where maybe when they first heard this news, they were frustrated and pissed off and upset, self-included. But when you actually take a step back and realize, like, this is maybe the biggest opportunity we've ever had in this industry to really showcase who we are and what do we do as a buyer's agent beyond just opening doors? Like, the agent who can illustrate their true value and their unique selling propositions that make them different than everybody else, they're going to win massively. Additionally, the agents who are very listing focused are also going to win really massively.
Yeah, those are great points, Kyle. And I've always thought, coming from a legal background, being an attorney before getting into real estate, I've always thought that the barriers to entry for real estate should be higher. And then also that, there should be way more minimum standards to working with clients. One of those being on the buyer side. I mean, I was telling you offline earlier, but when I first got into real estate, I started using the buyer agency agreement only because I was never told otherwise. Like, I logged into the form software, I saw the agreement, and I started using it, and I used it ever since. And so to not use it seemed really weird to me. And so I think it's actually a good thing for, like you said, quality agents or agents that want to really level up their game. So, no issues there. So that is actually a perfect segue for me into kind of talking about, the people you associate yourself with, the team, and the brokerage, because I think that is going to become much more important. And so I'd love to chat a little bit about, like I said, I'm late to the game. You came over to EXP quite a while ago, and I would just love to hear about, your experience, your decision doing that, and how that's gone for you.
Yeah, for sure. So we've been here. We're coming up on 6 years now in April. So just about hitting my 6 year mark. Honestly, I could say it's the best decision I ever made in my life. When I moved over from commercial to residential, I was the broker for 12 years. Like, I was always the broker. I never saw a reason to join a brokerage because it was always like, pay this and get that. I was like, this doesn't align. I'm paying a lot for that, which most of them, that was their technology, which most brokerage technology is crap, and their brand name, which I don't need your brand name. Like, I'm the brand name. So I never saw alignment between the two. I did the indie thing because I thought at some point I'm going to be able to sell this thing and make like $10 million. Like, there's this big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And after 12 years, I started getting bigger brokerages that were calling to look at an M&A deal with me. And I was like, oh shit, it's happening. Like, here we go. Like, I'm going to sell this thing and make $10 million. It was one of the most humbling experiences I've ever been through. I realized that what I was hoping was worth $10 million was maybe worth $1 million at the time.
Right.
Because the way that my company was structured and everything, like, it just didn't have anywhere near the value that I hoped it would have. So I was like, this is stupid. Like, I'm not going to deal with all the headaches and all the stresses of being a broker, especially in a climate like today. Lord knows you don't want to be a broker right now with all the stuff going on. It's just not worth it to be a broker. So I was like, let me go take a look around at the landscape again. Some things have changed since 12 years ago. So I started looking around at the different companies. And when I found EXP, I saw, like, look, I don't have to pay this anymore. I only have to pay this, but I don't get that. I get that. Like, I get a lot more than just a brokerage name to put on a contract in some technology I probably won't use. Like, I saw the opportunity to bring things to the table, like earning stock in the company, which I've used that to purchase multiple properties, including my dream home that my family lives in. The opportunity to earn revenue share for pouring into other agents in my group. And that's allowed me to live a lifestyle beyond anything I ever expected. And so now I pay this little bit, I get that. Like, it's been an amazing thing. And then the beauty of it is the revenue share. What I love most about it is that the revenue share that I earn is directly in proportion to the amount of value I add to everybody that's a part of my group. And so myself and my partner, Dan Beer, like, we obsess every single day about, like, what else can we do to pour into our people? What do they need? And we have all these different masterminds, whether it's a new agent or a solo agent or a team leader, right? Like, or somebody who's in the operations side, or somebody wants to do attraction. Like, we do all these different masterminds. We're hosting different events. Like, we just obsess every day about how can we pour into our people. And the more we pour into our people, the more revenue they're going to bring into the company, and the company rewards us by sharing that revenue.
I love it, Colin. Like I said, I'm definitely a little bit late to the game, hopefully not too late. But, on the inside now, I definitely see that. What would you say to folks who say, oh, EXP all about recruiting and it's a pyramid scheme?
Yeah, well, how about we'll just put my numbers up against yours, and then you tell me who's all about recruiting and who's about producing, because I'm going to sell somewhere around $600-700 million this year. So if anybody wants to come at me and tell me that, oh, it's just a recruiting company, like, you put your numbers up on the board and I'll put mine, and then we'll see. Because there's not any other company out there. Like, when the next Real Trends list comes out, watch how many people are on the top of that list that are with EXP. Now, here's what we found is that if you want to be good at agent attraction, you've got to be attractive. And what we know is to be attractive is not to go and tell everybody out there, like, come to EXP and you're going to earn all this revenue share and you're going to get to live on a deserted island. Like,
right.
We know that our message out there is, come join our group, fast forward at EXP. we're going to teach you how to do what we've done, right? The things I've experienced in my growth from, where when we met, I was probably selling less than $100 million, and now we're going to sell 600 or 700 million. Like, I've learned a lot of lessons along the way. And now people can plug into me and plug into Dan. And instead of making all the same mistakes that Dan and I have made along the way, we can tell you, hey, Danny, I know that looks like the right path over there, but be careful. You're going to run into a roadblock over there. So what I recommend you do is come over here, and here's why. So because we can help people navigate that road a lot smoother, we can help them get to where they want to go a whole lot faster, hence the name Fast Forward. So that's what we've learned, is we want to help people accomplish their goals in business. And for most people, that's a production-based goal. What better way to increase your production than to learn from the people that have done it before?
Yeah, I mean, Kyle, I will tell you, and I want to thank you, because I think what you've built and what you've created is simply amazing. When we were running a team at a different brokerage, we charged a split for all of the things that, you all give away essentially for free as part of EXP. And I think that is so cool. I was just telling, some of the guys in our group now about that. I was like, when you come here, you don't have to be on my team. You could just join the group and you get all these calls. And one guy was like, well, that sounds too good to be true. And I was like, because he was on a team at a different brokerage. And he's like, well, I pay 50% to get, 4 coaching calls a week and a mastermind and all this stuff. So, I do want to, start out by thanking you. I think it's an amazing thing. It's super cool.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're watching this, like, if you want to just check out one of these masterminds, like I said, we've got solo agents, team leaders, new agents, ops, like, just hit Danny up and he'll invite you and you can just come check it out. Cause like, I could tell you about our masterminds and tell you they're the best in the world, but like, you've never been to my mastermind and I've never been to whatever mastermind you've been to. And your idea of a mastermind is probably very different than mine. So the best thing I could say is just hit Danny up. He'll send you the info and just hop on one. And when you hop on there, it's going to do one of two things. Like, you're going to hop on there and be like, holy shit, this is amazing. This is 10 times better than anything I'm getting at my current brokerage. And you want more of it? Cool. We can talk about that. Or you're going to hop on and be like, oh, this is a bunch of shit. It's not for me. And that's cool too. Yeah. At least you'll know, hey, I looked at it, I explored it, it wasn't a fit for me. And that's totally fine.
Yep, definitely. And I'm sure whatever platform you're watching or listening, there's going to be some link below to hit me up and book a call and get you on one of those things. To my kind of original point, which is, a lot of people have also said, I'm hitting you with all the kind of boilerplate objections on this, but I've heard people say, oh, well, now it's too late. So with EXP where it is, if you're someone who's interested in agent attraction, is it too late to come to the company?
Yeah, I mean, I hear that all the time. People are like, oh, I'm going to go join this new company. I'm going to get in on this like ground floor opportunity. Well, you know what happens? A lot of those ground floor opportunities never get off the freaking ground.
Right.
Like, if you've never been with a company before that has to completely change their model because they built something that's not sustainable, because that's something a lot of people need to be careful of. I've seen some of these copycat companies try to build a model like, oh, we're way better than their model. Like, be careful. Like, we've gone through a lot to get to 90,000 agents. We've learned a lot along the way. Be careful joining a company that's going to tell you the company is this today, but we know that that's not sustainable. One of our biggest competitors right now, we're running at a very, very similar gross margin, but they're running at double the expenses that we're running at. Like, that's terrifying. If we're bringing in the same amount of dollars, but you're spending twice as many dollars going out, like, that should be concerning for people. So don't just get attracted to this shiny object, like, oh, this model's so much better. Is that really a sustainable model? Do you really want to jump in on something that might not be sustainable? Because I don't know about you, but I want to make sure when my deal closes, I get my check and my check clears. I don't want to be at a company where I close and they're like, oh, we don't have the money to pay you. Well, we need the money to pay bills, right? Like, you want to be with a company that's sustainable, that's a proven winner. And I think we still have so much runway to go. Some of the predecessors that changed the game, like we've changed the game, Remax, Keller Williams, like, have blown past 100,000, 150, come close to 200,000. Like, there's absolutely no reason why we can't get there. And you have such a more solid foundation to build on top of. So your choice. You want to get on a ground floor opportunity that maybe never gets off the ground. Hey, knock yourself out and you go for that. Because I can tell you, when I got into EXP at 6,000 agents, like, it was a shit show. Like, it was not a smooth experience. I don't want to go through that. If I have the option to join a proven winner versus a startup, when this is my livelihood, like, I'm taking the proven winner.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even though like I always say, oh man, I wish I would have gotten in when Kyle got in. When it was 6,000 agents. I would say in real estate, it's interesting because there's no better time than now, whether you're buying property or you're getting in as an agent, because there's so much turnover in real estate. The actual number of 100,000, 90,000 to me is kind of irrelevant because of all the new agents coming in, and with the stuff we talked about earlier, how many are going to be getting out, and the turnover we'll see.
Yeah. And
So
then, Kevin Williams, like people are like, oh, they're not adding agents. They're actually adding like 40, I don't know the exact numbers, but because they're not
yeah,
public, but they're adding somewhere around 40 or 50,000 agents a year to the company. But they're just losing 40 or 50,000 agents a year. But if you think about that, there's still opportunity there, right?
yeah,
Like there's 40 or 50,000 coming in. So if you can do a good job capturing as many of those 40 or 50,000 coming in and as few of those 40 or 50,000 going out, you can actually still grow massively. Like there's
exactly.
still opportunity, even if a company their total number plateaus, there's going to be people within that company that are still thriving. So even if we plateau now at 90,000, or we get to 150 and plateau, or 200, or wherever that number is, even when a company plateaus, there's still opportunity there.
100%, because of the high turnover in this industry, which, with all the new stuff, maybe that even goes higher. I mean, we used to use 30% as a turnover, and maybe that goes up, now. Who knows? So that's really interesting. And okay, Kyle, you're the perfect person to ask this to, because I hear this one all the time. What about I want to do luxury, and EXP is not a luxury brand.
If you asked me that like 2 years ago, I would totally agree with you. Like we were not built for luxury. Between the logo we used to have, and there was just nothing on a marketing front from a
Right.
luxury perspective. Like, dude, 100%. I would never argue 2 years ago, but it's been a huge focal point for the company. A bunch of the luxury agents came together, pushed the company. The company said, "All right, let's do this." They've been striking one partnership up after another to really level the playing field with any of the other luxury companies out there. Elevated logo, elevated marketing, and they're striking deals with some of these companies that if I were to go to directly, one of the companies, I got to pay a few $1,000s just every time I want to put one property on their platform. Now I can pay that same amount and I can put 10 properties on that same platform. So I'm cutting my cost to expand my reach significantly. And now the company, they're posting every month. We're closing 10, 20,000 or 10, $20 million deals left and right now. So as we continue to do more of that, and there's more and more focus on luxury, that's elevating. And then they've also added some new divisions into the company for sports and entertainment and farm and ranch and all of those different divisions, which also tend to focus on the luxury space as well.
Awesome. I love that. And just as an example, on your team, what are some of the most expensive listings you've sold over the last couple of years? Just so people can see EXP agents do luxury.
Yeah, last year we did two of them around 15 million last
Yeah.
year. This year we just represented a high profile sports figure here locally in town. So we're definitely doing that, working with celebrities, working with athletes, the whole sports and entertainment thing. Like that's a big focus for us. So it definitely does happen here in Southern California. We got a ton of amazing rock stars, especially up in LA. We got
Yep.
people like Ed Kaminsky and Dave Caskey there. We got Tina Call out on the East Coast. We got Pete Middleton here in San Diego doing a bunch of big deals. So tons of luxury that's happening here. Anybody who says they're not, they're just not paying attention, or they're living in the past and they haven't been introduced to what the current value proposition is.
Definitely. I 100% agree. Just playing devil's advocate. And then, Kyle, a couple more questions for you, man. Thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome and so much value for everyone watching and listening. On the agent attraction front, which you touched on a little bit, and the answer might be the same as being in production, but this is kind of a selfish question for someone that is interested in that aspect of the business and creating a revenue stream there. What advice would you have for someone that joins EXP now, starting from zero? And you have, I believe, how many agents in your group?
Between Dan and I, it's like 13,000.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
So
How do we pass you up?
Yeah, the biggest thing that we've figured out is that the less we talk about stock and revenue share, the more of it we get.
Mm.
The more we talk about production, the better off we are, because that's why everybody got their licenses to produce, to sell homes, where there's a ton of other people that have a different message out there. And I think that does more harm than good. So we constantly are talking about production, sharing numbers of production numbers, not attraction numbers, because that is attractive. Like I said, if you want to attract people, you got to be attractive. And what's attractive is the fact we're coming up on 100 million closed already this year in March. Like that's really attractive. And talking about now, yeah, those are huge numbers that are, unattainable for most people, or at least they believe those are unattainable. But also sharing stories of like Jeremy Larson, who joined our group a few years ago, he was at like 8 or 9 million when he joined, went to 30 million to 100 to 200 plus million.
Wow.
Or Megan Niles, who went from doing 6 houses to having 2 kids and now doing 36 houses,
Wow.
2 years later. So it's like when we can share those stories, whether it's, somebody at Megan's level just going from 6 to 36, or Jeremy going from 9 million to 200 plus million, like sharing those stories, that's attractive because that people want to see that there's a path, and the better job we can do of showing them that there's a path and then what that path is, that's the most attractive thing. And then the other thing is not trying to do it on your own. The best thing you can do is when you have somebody who's interested is just get them on a mastermind. Let them see what we do. Like, let them see what it would be like to join us before they join us. There's so many companies like, oh, we can't share this with you. We can't share that with you. Like, the more open we are, the more that we share, the more attractive that is. And people get on there and they're like, this is amazing. I want more of this. That is your key. And then just leveraging the people above you, because they succeed when you succeed. They win when you win. So they want to do whatever they can to help you succeed and win in your business.
No, man, I love that. That's such great advice for me, especially, coming to EXP now, but, with a lot of experience in the industry, just really great value and a good mental focus there. So, Kyle, last question for you is there anything that you want to leave everyone with here, our budding future millionaire agents?
Yeah, so there's a quote that I was researching for the mastermind we did earlier today about all these changes with the NAR settlement. I think that this quote is so valuable in a time like this. And this is from Charles Darwin. It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And there's this opportunity right now where there is change happening. Those that respond to this change are going to be more successful than they've ever been in this business. If we can embrace this change and see this as opportunity, we're all going to do amazing. And Dan and I as leaders are doing everything we can to get out there in front and help everybody to respond in the right way to this and see this as a positive message. So we want to be that lighthouse. There's a lot of people out there right now that are kind of ships lost at sea. They don't know where to go. We want to be that lighthouse to guide them to that promised land.
Yeah, it's a great quote. I heard earlier today when you said it on that mastermind, and glad to hear it again to reinforce that. So, Kyle, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and all of the value and knowledge that you've instilled on everyone here, and especially on me, and glad to be a part of what you're doing and help everyone grow.
Sounds good. Yeah. And if you guys want to stay connected, go to thewhisselway.com, thewhisselway.com. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, the podcast, join our Facebook group, all that fun stuff on there. And then just follow me on Instagram at Kyle Whissel. Would love to stay connected. And I respond to everything on there personally. Nobody manages those messages for me. So if you ever want to connect, that's the best way to stay connected.
Wow. Well, I hope you got as much value out of that interview with Kyle Whissel as I know I did. But most importantly, what you need to do with that information is you have to execute on it. So pick one thing that you learned from the video. Let me know what that is in the comments below and go make it happen. If you need help, if you want to chat through that, I want to invite you one more time to book a free business strategy call with me. Just click the link down below. We'll do a deep dive into your business, see what's working, see what isn't. If there's something I can do to help you, I will gladly do that. Remember, I got absolutely nothing to sell you. And check out this other video on the channel that I think you might really like and that'll help you grow your business. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel.